Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're going to take our first look at what Standard Best-of-One looks like after the most recent bans of Vivi, Prophecy-Dedic Memory, and Screaming Nemesis. A deck that was most prevalent for quite some time, Mono Red, has largely fallen off. We only have a day's worth of data, so some of this is still small sample. We'll come back in a couple days and look again, but this is just a starting point to give folks some ideas in terms of what is potentially viable. So we're not going to go out and just say, best deck, this thing's broken, yada yada. Some of these decks were established decks and are just repositioning themselves. There might need to be some adaptations in terms of how decks are attacking. Things like Authority of the Consoles might lose some of their efficiency when you have less haste creatures. You might want to go with more graveyard hate, for example. Something like a Braid versus Lightning Strike to deal with the Artifacts deck, which you can see from this kind of sneak peek is one of the higher win rate decks. So really it's just going to kind of get you started. Avatar comes out next week as well, so we're going to see some new cards in there. This is really, again, just to kind of get you going. So we're going to look at Untapped because it's only been less than a day. When I go to like the pages themselves, just as a heads up, we're going to get this kind of insufficient data, but from the main page, I just want to try to avoid back and forth. All of these decks that we're featuring today have minimum 100 games capped from Diamond and Mythic rank and are above 55% win rate, respectively speaking. So towards the higher end of the rank ladder, and then at least 100 games played. So decent, but not maybe the highest sample. So we'll look at the decks themselves. All the deck lists will be in the video description, so you can copy paste them. If you're looking for best of 3 decks, I put out a video yesterday as well, speaking a bit about the bans. And last thing, we're like almost 200, not even a little bit more than 200 subs away from 20,000. You want to keep up to date with what the best decks are once Avatar drops, once Lauren drops any of the new sets. We cover all the formats. We'll get you ready for the Pioneer Metagame Challenge, any of the qualifier weekends. So make sure to subscribe. Free, easy, helps out the channel. So we're going to jump in. Like I said, the Jeskai Artifacts is the highest win rate for this kind of day period. It's really blue-white artifacts, and you can see by the mana base, Starting Town's the only real red source in the deck. The Fire Crystal's in here because it's tutorable through Repurposing Bay. But the entirety of the deck is built around Simulacrum Synthesizer, cares about artifacts 3 CMC or greater coming into play, and gives you Karnstruct tokens, and that's kind of your win condition. So you're using United Battlefront to like collect a company into these effects. Repurposing Bay is basically birthing pot for artifacts. Sack an artifact, go tutor an artifact 1 CMC higher. So you can do things like Cryogen Relic, Clayfire Brick, Springlow Sawblades, get their ETB effect, and then sack it for the synthesizer. One thing you might want to consider, like I said, Authority of the Consoles may be something that you forgo on and instead potentially play some form of Graveyard Hate. Rest in Peace, for example. You largely don't care about your graveyard, so being able to attack your opponents is pretty reasonable in that respect. Dimir Midrange, so this is going to be one of the decks that is going to be explored quite heavily in the new format. There's customization, usually in the 3-drop slot. Tishana's Tidebinder, you usually see a split between Preacher and Tishana's. You may want Tishana's against things, again, like the Jeskai Artifacts, gives you another flash threat, but core of the deck is Enduring Curiosity, Kaido as your snowball engines. Curiosity draws you a bunch of cards. Kaido just comes in and starts chunking away at your opponent, taps stuff down, draws you cards as well. Disruption and Deep Cavern Bat. You have cheap removal and Shoot the Sheriff, Tragic Trajectory, and Bitter Triumph. And then cheap counter in like Phantom Interference, Spyglass Siren, Cecil, Flood Pits Drowner, all cheap ways kind of go. If you do see an increased amount of, say, Dimir decks, you might want Fadeloom Trick. That's one way to do it. One thing I am going to do is just update the mana base. It should be 4 Watery Graves. So I'll take a look just to kind of tweak this mana base a bit to reflect a little bit more succinct of a mana base. Mono White Lifegain, largely untouched. So Leyline of Hope comes into your opening hand. You get it to play for free, gains the extra life, and then is the Righteous Valkyrie emblem. You could draw cards with Exemplar of Light, as well as Halia potentially, which helps in this deck. Essence Chandler, Pridemate, both get bigger as you gain life. Again, Authority of the Consoles could probably forgo, just playing more Healer's Hawk. I really like Halia as card draw, and I would play Starting Town in your mana base. It's a way you can self-inflict damage to your life total to give your Essence Chandler flying and vigilance. Simic Counters, so not counter spells, but counters in terms of +1/1. So it's built around Jackal, Genius, Geneticist, or Drunith on Arena. So 2 mana, 1/1 trample, and then whenever you cast a creature spell, you basically copy it. It's not legendary, based on its power, Jackal's power, Drunith's power. So for example, you cast a Llanowar Elf, you get an extra copy. You cast Hemiosymbetic Might, you get an extra copy. You can make it bigger through things like Gene Morph and Mago to kind of skip ahead, or Boroid can make it bigger. Sometimes you'll see versions with Innkeeper's Talent. That was in the version of Best of 3. Sur can draw you cards. You could do Paw Patch Formation. There's a lot of ways to kind of play around. So this one's kind of a tempo small ball. And then you kind of go wide and then go tall with Boroid, Gene Morph, and Mago all mixed into the deck. First of our graveyard decks is Selesnya Yuna. So this has got a couple different ways to cheat and to play big fatties. Your payoffs are things like Summon Bahamut, Knights of the Round, and Overlord of the Mistmoors. So from your graveyard, you can reanimate them with Yuna, Hope of Spire. So you have cards like Dredger's Insight, Esper Origins, put cards into your graveyard. You can also cheat it into play with Kona. So Kona can be tapped either through Seriama or any of the planet lands. So this is a way to kind of cast it from your hand. Similarly with Smuggler's Surprise is another way to kind of get that going. So multiple angles, not just all in graveyard, to kind of cheat into play effects. Battle menu is some removal as well as Get Lost. Llanowar Elf helps you race up, and then some Ghost Vacuums in the main. Sultai Reanimator, so another version of the Reanimator deck. So this deck is built around Kavero. So this is one of the more kind of payoff all-in graveyard decks. So Kavero, basically when you cast it, it enters as a copy. So you get the cast trigger, Bringer of the Last Gift. Both players sack their boards and then reanimate all things in their graveyard. You can also have it become Arden, which then can bring back things like Craterhoof or your other stuff as demons. The Arden's also nice because it can give haste to your Bringer of the Last Gift as well as lifelink. Craterhoof's kind of the payoff. There's another version with, not Thundermaw, Hellkite, the 5 mana dragon that when the red one, when a creature enters, deals damage equal to its power to each thing. Oh, it's going to bother me now. There was that list is doing worse. Terror of the Peaks. So it's a couple percentage points worse. But a 2% worse on that one there. But it's very similar. The top end's kind of picking what you want in terms of your win conditions. Overlord, you have some draw discard packages here that you can play around with. Dredgers, Town Greeter, both mill you over. Fate Weaver is a way that can trade early with creatures, but then can also help you find your Kavero. With Cavernous Souls, you want to name Human, because Human works both for Kavero and for Arden. That's usually the best payoff. Selesnya Rabbits is kind of making a comeback. We saw a version like a week ago with Ouroboros. This one's playing Spider-Ham, Peter Parker, or Terran Tusk, Unwisely Unwoken. Just another Lord effect for your rabbits. This does a whole bunch of creature types, but notably rabbits. This also does frogs, so it works with Valley Might Caller. So kind of a cool one there. This the Valley Quest Caller does not work with Valley Might Caller. Spam board going wide. You kind of go tall with a Beauregard Mentor. Phineas can put counters on things. Warren War Leader can anthem the team. So just kind of going wide, pushing a whole bunch of damage through your opponent that way there. Selesnya has some pretty bad mana, so you do have to rely on like Multiverse Passage, Starting Town, kind of mixed into there. Mono blue tempo, so elements similar to Dimir, but looking to play for the most part at instant speed. Spectral Sailor flashes in. Brineborn Cutthroat can get bigger through flash. You have Faebloom Trick and Tishana's. You have Enduring Curiosity draw you cards. Stoetic Sphinx can have hexproof at times, and just another large powerful creature. So 5 power with flying for 4 mana. Ornlock Whale's kind of tempo removal, and then a big body on the top end, and then just cheap interaction. Flood Maws. You have Spell Stutters, Detect Intrusion as a cheap effect. You can also reset some of your creatures like Flood Pit's Drowner, for example, or Tishana's to kind of get those effects again. Dimir Mill. So this is one of the control decks of the format. This deck here is looking to 2-card combo in a way, sort of Splinter Twin. When you cast Singularity Rupture, it will mill half your opponent's library. You then follow it up with a River Churn Monument Exhaust, which gets rid of the other half of their deck. So the rest of the deck is just a control deck looking to either accumulate card advantage, consult the star charts, stock up, or you just kind of interaction, hand hate, cheap bounce, cheap removal, some cheap counters. The end is a pseudo edict or a surgical effect, not an edict, and then deadly cover up as another sweeper. So looking to just kind of run your opponent out of resources. Simic Omni, so this is another version of Kona. This one's more of a combo than cheat into play big things. Kona in one copy of Bloomvine Regent are the only green cards. Kona with the Planet Lions, cheat into play Omniscience, and then you're basically digging with stock ups, consult the star charts, rolling Dragon Storms. The combination of 2 Meringue River Regents and a Bloomvine Regent is effectively infinite life for as many times as you can cast it, and you're basically going to amass a board and a hand where you present, here are all my dragons, and I have 4 counter spells in hand, Lost in the Maze for protection, kind of effects to get around your opponent's removal for that one turn before you attack for lethal. Izzet Prowess. So Vivi's gone, and this deck's looking to pick up in terms of more of the lower curve prowess elements. So Slickshot, we have Drakehatcher, we have Balmor, all care about casting cheap instants and sorceries. The Stormchaser's Talent is another way to make a cheap prowess threat along with Elusive Otter. Elusive Otter can also cast Grove's Bounty through the starting town or Multiversal Passage. Just got to name green, so it's more late game if needed. Burst Lightning is cheap burn, some bounce with Flood Mod, cantrips in Opt and Sleight of Hand. Secret Identity is a really interesting card. So it's both a protection effect and a proactive effect. Usually you get one of these, like Shore Up just gives it usually 3 toughness, but this lets you either protect with given base power or can give a creature evasion. So something like Drakehatcher can get very large, but you can do Reveal Side, and it becomes a 3/4 base power and gains flying and vigilance, which is really sweet. Wild Ride hastes out any of your kind of slower threats like Balmor, Drakehatcher, or Elusive Otter. And then lastly, we have Azorius Auras. So this one's an enchantment kind of aggro deck. You have Wonderweave Aerialist, an interesting one, Skyward Spider, a hybrid, 2 mana, 2/2, ward 2, and it has flying as long as the creature's modified. So any sort of aura on a creature, and this becomes an evasive creature with some built-in protection, stacks up nicely with Sheltered by Ghosts, can get ward 4 just by equipping it. And then the deck's got Ethereal Armors, some Seamurp's removal, Shard Mage's protection, Enduring Innocence draws you cards, Entity Tracker draws you cards, so kind of a tempo-oriented deck, not huge amounts of, usually with Aura decks you see either like a toolbox like we have in Historic. This one's kind of an enchantment-esque theme, really relying on Ethereal Armor to scale the damage, or just using like the Wonderweave Aerialist to have evasion over your opponent. So that's it. Like I said, it's a bit early. We'll kind of keep an eye on if there's any interesting decks. I'll post them. I'll drop interesting lists in my Discord as well. And like I said, if you haven't subbed to the channel, we're almost there at 20K. Greatly appreciate it if you can. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great one and stay safe out there.